Hi, my name is Sydney. I'm one of the PMs on the PowerShell team, and we couldn't make it to build this year, but we wanted to make a little video for you because we were so sad that we couldn't make it. This video is some productivity tips for developers who use PowerShell, for developers in PowerShell, anybody who develops and uses PowerShell in any form or capacity. Today, I'm joined by my good friends, Steven and Jason. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves? Hey, Steven.
Hey, Sydney. My name's Stephen Bucher. I'm a PM on the PowerShell team with Sydney, and excited to share some tips with you guys.
Oh, and I'm Jason. I'm a PM on the PowerShell team and on the Cloud Shell team, which is so very exciting. And yeah, I've got a couple of tips I'd like to share too. So excited, Sydney. This is going to be fun.
Awesome. Well, I guess I'll get started with my first tip. So my first tip is to use the PowerShell extension for VS Code. Do you guys mind if I share my screen and just show a
Oh,
little bit
do,
around?
do. Yeah, show us.
Awesome. All right. So here I have VS Code. VS Code is a free cross-platform editor. If you go into your browser of choice and type in VS Code, you'll find all the different ways you can install it. So once you have VS Code, the first thing you like to do is install your extensions. So VS Code is a very extensible platform, and you can have extensions for any sort of language or tool you like to develop with. I like to use the PowerShell extension for VS Code. This is developed by the PowerShell team at Microsoft. So you can go ahead and install the extension. If you're looking for another really awesome extension to use, I recommend the remote SSH extension. As you can see here, this is going to allow you to open any folder on a remote machine using SSH and take advantage of VS Code's full feature set. But let's go back to the PowerShell extension here. So here I have open a little PowerShell script, a little PowerShell commandlet that I'm using here. It's a commandlet that I wrote called get dog pick. If I run my commandlet here, I can run it using this run button, and then I can run my commandlet get dog pick in the extension PowerShell extension terminal, which is a feature of the PowerShell extension here. And my fun little commandlet generates a random dog pick for me here. It's just a fun little commandlet that I have been working on. So I want to show you a few features of the PowerShell extension that make it a really nice environment for me to develop my PowerShell scripts in. So the first feature is IntelliSense. So if I'm writing a new script, say I'm writing get child item, you can see that IntelliSense provides me with these completion options here. And as I'm typing, it gives me more specific completion options that I can use. And as I go to parameters, it's also going to provide me with nice parameter completion options with information like that this is a string array. So that's a really cool feature. You'll also notice that I have really nice syntax highlighting here that makes my code nice and easy to read. And if I put my cursor over, say, a commandlet, it's going to give me all sorts of nice information about that commandlet and its parameter sets and sort of like what I can do with that commandlet. Another really nice feature of this extension is linting. So you can see that I have some squiggly lines over different parts of my code. And so if I highlight over that, it'll tell me what the problem is, but I also have a problems tab, which is going to tell me exactly what's going on which line and what I can sort of do to fix the problem. For certain problems too, I can actually get fixed by the formatter. So you'll also notice that in this case, I have a little bit of a wonky adjustment to my code here. It's not totally in line, but the extension also provides a formatter. So if I right click here, I can format document. That's going to adjust here. And if I go here, I can also do a quick fix here and replace IRM with invoke rest method. It's going to replace the alias there and give me the full commandlet name. So those are just a few nice features of the extension for VS Code. The VS Code extension also has a great debugger. You can set breakpoints here in the gutter and then press this button to launch the debugger. Now, if this seemed a little fast-paced or you missed it, I just want to show you a few more things that are going to be really handy for you as you get started with the PowerShell extension for VS Code. So the first thing is going to be the command palette. Now, this is Control-Shift-P. If you open this up and start typing in PowerShell, you'll be able to see all of the functionality of the extension right here. And you can just click to start these things. If you go down here, click on this, you'll be able to open up your settings. And once again, if you type in PowerShell, you'll be able to see all the settings available to you for the PowerShell extension. And finally, if you want some more information on the PowerShell extension for VS Code, once again, Control-Shift-P. If you start typing in welcome, you'll be able to open the walkthrough experience, click on PowerShell, and this will give you a getting started experience for the PowerShell extension. It'll kind of step you through some of the basic getting started steps, and it'll also give you links to more resources and documentation for getting started with the extension. So thanks for letting me share my screen a little bit. And those are some of my favorite tips.
Hey, Sydney,
Yeah.
I love these tips. If a developer, wants to work with PowerShell, grab that PowerShell extension. It's going to do what you expect it to do, like you do with other extensions. This is great. But I've got a question for you. There's a lot of folks out there that they may not be developers, maybe they're IT admins or whatever, and they started out using the ISE, the integrated scripting
Sure.
engine, and
Yeah.
all of that. And VS Code can sometimes be a little daunting or a little bit scary to them. Is there a tip that maybe those folks could have, to help them with VS Code?
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely relate to that. I've used the ISC as well, and it can be a really comfortable environment. So what we did is we introduced ISC mode in the PowerShell extension for VS Code. So once again, if you open the integrated console, the command palette, Control-Shift-P, and you start typing in ISC, you can enable ISC mode. And what this is going to do is it's going to create a very familiar UI experience to the ISC. It's going to give you familiar theming, some familiar keyboard shortcuts, and kind of pare down the UI experience so that it's
Yeah.
very familiar from the ISC. You can toggle this experience on and off, enable, disable as you see fit. But yeah, this is a great tip for those who are just getting started with VS Code.
No, this is
It's
great.
crazy to see an ISE looking thing on Mac too. We should call out that you're doing this all on a Mac with
Yeah.
PowerShell 7. Isn't that awesome?
Totally, totally. And so if you are somebody who's maybe come from a Windows PowerShell background, but for whatever reason you're on Mac, you're on PowerShell 7, you can still have that familiar ISE experience, which is pretty cool. Well,
That's
Steven,
amazing.
I've heard you've been doing some really awesome stuff with PSReadLine lately, and you have some tips there. Would you mind showing me that? Because I'm pretty excited about it.
Sure, yeah, of course. And so, Sydney showed off a lot of the really awesome stuff with the editor experience. I'm really interested and passionate about some of the interactive experience in the CLI. And so, PS Readline is a inbox module that really enhances your command line experience in the shell. So why don't I go ahead and start sharing my screen here, and I can show you some really cool stuff that we've been doing with PS Readline. So I'm right here in my Windows computer, and I have the latest PowerShell installed. I'm also in Windows Terminal. Quick shout out to Windows Terminal team. They have some really awesome themes, so if you aren't using it, definitely give it a shot. But like I said, PS Readline is installed by default on your machine and or with PowerShell, and so you don't really have to do anything too specific yet. Excuse me. But what I really wanted to show off with PS Readline is PS Readline predictors. So there's all sorts of different options you can do with PS Readline, but one of the coolest features we have is the PS Readline predictors. So predictors are a way to accelerate and enhance your command line experience. And you can see actually as I start typing, you're already seeing them work. Um, uh, you'll see this kind of grayed out section here of my command line experience. It's the history predictors in the PS Readline experience are taking, excuse me, taking content from my history and trying to pattern match it with what I'm currently typing and what I've last typed. So I was playing around with the PS Readline options to choose the different sources. And so, also to accept it, I just press the right arrow key there to accept the prediction source. And so there's two different options for PS Readline predictions. There's history and then there's plugin. So like I said, history uses your history file to populate predictions results. And so this is very helpful if you're kind of doing repetitive tasks, very, easy to kind of click the right arrow key as you're typing to get the latest history match. And then we have plugin predictors, which is where it gets really exciting. It is a fully extensible way to add different kinds of PowerShell predictors into your experience, and I'll show off those in a second here. But let's start out. So first off, we have enabled these history and plugin by default. However, you'll only see history enabled currently. This is again with PSReadLine 2.2.6 and above, which ships with the latest versions of PowerShell now, but in case you haven't upgraded, you will have to upgrade to get some of these features. But we have some really cool views. So we call this inline view. So inline view is as the name suggests, it's in line with as you're typing, but we also have a different kind of view called list view. And we have this really nifty hotkey here. So if I press F2, and so this is the list view of PSReadLine predictors. And so you can see I have different results. I'm currently running the latest beta version of 2.3.1. And so this includes some really awesome new improvements to the list view that includes this line here, this metadata line that we're calling to help you navigate through this. Because one thing that we added is a scrollable view. So right now, by default, you'll see 10 results. But as I start getting more plugin predictors installed, I'll be starting getting more than 10 results. And so I want to be able to kind of navigate through those. And so we'll get into that in a little bit here. But I can simply navigate this list view prediction with my right arrow keys and accept the ones that I've used in the past. I've obviously been mistyping a little bit, so it does catch some of that stuff, but I'll use this to go to the PSReadLine options that are available to kind of show off some of the other cool PSReadLine options. I won't be going through too many of these here today, but I definitely encourage you guys to explore a little bit of the different kind of options available to customize your CLI experience with PSReadLine. So let's jump into some plugin predictors to really enhance and accelerate your CLI experience. So the first one I want to import is this module that we've created called the completion predictor. So the completion predictor is one that we, as the PowerShell team, has created and published that utilizes tab completion to really help kind of investigate modules. So for example, I'll do get child item here, and if I start, start typing a parameter, you'll see now I have different sources of completions of predictors here. So the first three are kept to my history, what I've used in the past, but you'll notice now I have this other source, completion predictor. And so this is where it gets really exciting with predictors, where now I can use this to kind of investigate a little bit more about these kind of parameters and tab completion capabilities without breaking my workflow too close. And so, and then you'll see here, I can highlight the scrollable view because there's so many parameters available for get child item. I can just keep going down and down and down and down all the way through all of these different parameters, which is pretty awesome. And then once I get to the bottom, I'll just start back up at the top again. So this is pretty awesome for a whole lot of prediction views. And something you might have noticed is this kind of grayed out description here, or this what we're calling a tooltip to the list view of predictors. And so this is something brand new to the latest beta of PSReadLine. It utilizes a tooltip option in predictions to give you a little bit more details about what, in this case, what these parameters accept as arguments. But predictors can give whatever kind of details they want for this. And so what I'm going to do to show this off is show off another amazing plugin predictor called the AZ Tools predictor. History is going to help me out here so I don't fat finger anything again. But so now I've installed the AZ predictor, and the AZ predictor uses a machine learning model to help suggest commandlets specific to the AZ suite of modules. The AZ suite of modules has over 4,000 commandlets, and so it's a little hard to know exactly what you need to do, and especially what kind of parameters and values you need to also include in these commands. So this really helps you explore and look, try something new that the AZ predictor can give you. So as I start typing, you'll see I have history again, and you'll see AZ predictor is starting to suggest different AZ commandlets. And this is a great example of kind of the tooltip helping out with definitions or descriptions for these commandlets. Get AZVM gets the properties of a virtual machine, virtual network. These are pretty straightforward. Fortunately, the verbosity of PowerShell really helps with understanding what the commandlets do, but we can utilize that a lot further to really help you dive deeper. So that is some highlights for the a couple of the cool plugin predictors available. Of course, you can check out the PowerShell gallery. If you search predictor, you'll be able to find a whole number of other kind of predictors that people have created in the community. We have also created amazing documentation on how to create your own predictors. So feel free to give that a shot. And yeah, I think that's all I have to cover. I don't know, did I miss anything cool, Jason, to show off here?
I don't know, but I got to tell you, in this new beta, this whole tooltip thing that you and Dongbo and folks have added in here is pretty cool. It's almost like getting a little miniature help file. And in the case of when you were on the completion predictors, and it was like giving you like what the argument types were and stuff like that. Yeah, it's like having a little miniature help file as you're working through these. This is fantastic. This really does seem to, it helps folks not only remember what they have recently typed and things like that, but this helps teach them about all of the new stuff. I use this all the time when I'm trying to figure out something in like Azure PowerShell when I'm working in Azure. I mean, it like you said, it's over 4,000 commandlets. Wow, it's a lot to try to memorize. This, you don't have to memorize anything.
Yeah, and actually you reminded me of something I forgot to show off about the tooltip predictions. And so you can see here, tooltips aren't limited to one line. So this one shows 2. We go up to a max of 4, but sometimes tooltips can be very, very long. And so it may not be enough. It might clutter your screen. You don't want that. So we've added a way to kind of dig deeper into some of these tooltips. So if I have this one selected, you see this one's 2 lines. So I think this is it completely. But if I press F4, it will load up the alternate screen buffer and show off that completion prediction. So if I find one that's a lot longer, let me see if I can find one. Oh, here we go.
Oh, there you go.
Parse. There we go. So you can see here in the int class, we have a bunch of different parameter options for parse. And you'll see here we say, hey, you press F4 to view all. And so if I press F4 here, it will show them all to me in a different screen buffer, so I can see all the different kinds of parameter combinations for this particular commandlet, and all without interrupting my workflow. So now that I know what the parameters are, I can add something like that. And so,
what, that's what I love about both the predictors and about the use of the alternative screen buffer. It doesn't mess up your work. It's all about staying focused on what you need to do and getting some assistance just at the time that you need that help. This is amazing stuff, Stephen.
Yep, I think that's all I have to share.
So cool. It seems like you're moving so fast on this and like coming out with new stuff all the time. If folks want to keep up to date on like what's happening with PSReadLine, what's happening with completers, feedback, all those sorts of things, like how can they stay up to date with you and the things that you're working on?
That's a great question, Sydney. So the cool thing about PowerShell is we are completely open source. And so all of our code is available online for free. So you guys can take a look at it. You can contribute as bugs. So if you go to github.com/PowerShell, this is our main PowerShell repo that you can download PowerShell 7 in and contribute open issues. Issues tab here. Don't worry about this. So here's the issues tab here. So you can submit a new issue if you ever have bugs with PowerShell itself. But we also have specific repos for PSReadLine too. So if you have any questions about PSReadLine or any bugs that come up, we are very responsive to the issues tab here, and can kind of help solve your issues that way. We release all of our betas here, and some of our longer servicing releases as well, but we also publish to the PowerShell gallery. So it's very easy for you to install via the PowerShell gallery here. But we also update blog posts to show off these features. So keep an eye out on Twitter or the dev blogs page at Microsoft for kind of any kind of announcements and feedback there. But yeah, we love getting your feedback. Please feel free to submit an issue on any sort of question, feature request, and so on.
I'm sure we can put all those links in the notes, show notes. But Jason, what have you been up to? I hear you've been working on Crescendo lately. Is that true?
So yeah, Sydney, we're getting ready to release the next version of Crescendo 1.1, and very excited about it. And I'm really excited to talk at MS Build with developers about Crescendo, because here's the thing. Let me show you some. I think this might be helpful to folks that are developing command line tools.
Let's see it. Yeah.
This is the wrong machine. Let me go over to my Windows box. Looks almost the same, but hey, it's a Windows box. Let me give you a typical, an example of a typical Windows native command, ipconfig, and I can run it. Yay, that's great. We love native commands, or as I like to say, platform specific. If you're on Windows, you got Windows commands. If you're on Linux or Mac, you got Linux and Mac commands. It's really easy. As a lot of developers know, if you need to create a tool for admins or anybody to be able to work with your feature, it's so easy to create a native tool for that. It's quick, it's rapid to develop, and you can spend your time focused on what should the experience be when somebody's using this. A lot of times, though, it would be really nice if you also did PowerShell commandlets. Oh, I know that's almost heresy, because, well, I just invested all this effort into developing this command line. What do I care about the PowerShell ecosystem? But hey, Stephen, what was our numbers like on the PowerShell sessions of our ecosystem? What are we looking at here?
Well,
like
yeah,
sessions?
so PowerShell 7 sessions alone this past year, ever since October of 2022, we have been over 1 billion sessions every month.
Every month.
Peaking at 1.3 billion sessions in this past March, which is pretty amazing.
So here's what I'd say to all the developers. Do you really want to ignore that ecosystem where we have over 1 billion sessions a month, a bunch of users that want to use your tools, but they want to use them as commandlets? Well, I've got a feature for you today to make your lives a little bit easier if you want to try this out. So take a look. I've got ipconfig. You're saying to yourself, yes, so what? It's a native command. But here's the thing. Without writing any code, I made this, get ipconfig. And here's the best part. It looks different, yes, but it's a lot different. See, what's happening here is the original ipconfig just spits out arbitrary text. There's nothing I can do with that. I can't use the pipeline or PowerShell to help me deal with this data. If I try to select the IPv4 address of ipconfig, I get bupkis. It doesn't work. When I do this, though, as wrapped with Crescendo, and I do get ipconfig, it works, because Crescendo, yeah, I know, because Crescendo wraps everything, that takes that structured data, wraps it as an object, and makes it work on a pipeline just as a PowerShell person would expect. Now, if you're a developer, you're going, I don't have time to develop all these commandlets, and then the community is going to yell at me if I get them wrong, and I'm going to have to fix them, and I just don't want to go through this. Well, here's how easy it is for me to develop commandlets off of a native command. This is what Crescendo does. If I go into, let me show you. All you have to do is create a native command JSON-based configuration file. That's it. And here's what it looks like. I'm going to go into this JSON, and just as an example, this happens to be, oh, thanks for the update notice. This happens to be, I was just sitting around with messing with the Azure Connected Machine agent, and I just wanted to instrument it all as commandlets. So all you have to do in this JSON, and you can either do this by hand, or we've got commandlets that will build this for you. You just have to tell me, what do you want this commandlet to be called? You give us a verb, you give us a noun, you tell us what platform it runs on. Tell me what the original location of that native command is. And then if you want, as I'll scroll down here, I'll show you another example. You can then also define things like, what parameters do you want? What were the original parameters on the native command so that we get the mapping? So you can make this commandlet look just the way that it's supposed to. At this point with this file, here's the beautiful part. You have Crescendo, export this. Here's what Crescendo is going to do when it exports it. Crescendo is going to do all the coding. And it's going to give me a PSM1 module. And it's also going to give me a manifest with a PSD. And here's the best part. I'm locked, loaded, ready to go. I'm done. It's wrapped. It's golden. If I want, and here's the part that I think that a lot of developers are missing here. This not only wrapped it and made a commandlet for me, but this module will work. Oh, wait, look at this. Here's a little Windows PowerShell 5.1. A lot of folks still have this out on their environments. Anything you wrap, look, get IP config. Yep, it's going to work, works just fine. So that module works down level to 5.1. Here's the other thing, Crescendo, as all things in PowerShell 7 is, I just moved over to my Mac. It's cross-platform. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to open up a terminal on my Mac. And you guys might know if you work on a Mac, we've got a similar command to IP config called ifconfig. Well, I'm not typing that right. There we go, ifconfig. And it's all this nasty arbitrary text and all that kind of stuff. But Crescendo can wrap these too. So let me clear the screen and do an invoke ifconfig. I think that's what they did. Oh, yeah, and I even called up the specific interface. So Crescendo will work cross-platform for whatever native commands you want. It's easy to wrap and get out. And here's what I think the biggest benefit to Crescendo is for developers. We get over 1 billion sessions a month of people using PowerShell. Right now on the gallery, there are 17 authors that are creating Crescendo-built modules that have over 8 million downloads. Here's a fast way for you to develop a native command and then go, I want to test, I want some commandlets. You don't have to develop the commandlets. You define them, get them in front of the community. Let the community help you, give you feedback going, I don't like that parameter name, don't like this name, fix this, fix that. And you're like, okay, not a problem, just fix it. The next day you reship it when everybody is happy. Now you're left with a decision. What do I do now? If you want, you've got the full spec now. We'll go ahead and hard code it if you want, or you can just ship the Crescendo built module along with your native command. So here's the idea is you've got this giant ecosystem out there of all these folks using PowerShell. Everybody wants to develop native commands, simple, fast, and easy, and you get a lot of great work done. Why not go that small extra mile to make sure that both ecosystems get to enjoy your product features this way? That's why we made Crescendo, was to make people's lives easier to get those commandlets out. So that's my tip. What do you think? Was that pretty good? Is that okay? Did I do okay?
So cool. So cool. And it's so cool to see the community adoption. I mean, would you say 17 Crescendo modules are already available on the PowerShell gallery?
Yeah, there's 17 authors that are just out there cranking modules out on the gallery. Imagine, I don't know, but imagine all of those people that are secretly already doing it inside of their networks, building Crescendo stuff. I mean, it's pretty cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I heard maybe there's one other thing that you've been working on, CloudShell.
Oh, CloudShell. Oh, yeah. So let me give a great tip for
Yeah.
So oh great, I'm on my
really
Mac. I'm going to bring up, and folks, I'm sure I'm not even sharing my screen. I need to share my screen. Let me share my screen so you can see what I'm doing. Look, if you haven't seen this, I'm thinking most of you have. Developers, you're working in Azure and that kind of stuff. If you go out to the Azure portal and you hit this little button up here, you're going to get the amazing, wonderful CloudShell. Here's the best tip that I have for you. And to give you this tip, I need to basically tell you what my life is like in the mornings. If I get up and I want to work with Azure, first thing I have to do is I open up PowerShell. Then I have to go out and see if I've got my modules updated. I got to update Azure PowerShell. That takes a while. I'm probably going to have to update Azure CLI because I use both of them all the time. And we're adding in new things like Azure Developer, stuff like that, all kinds of new commands. I'm going to have to install and update all of those. So after an hour or so, I might actually be able to get some work done because Azure changes a lot. That's a good thing. I got to keep updating. Here's the best part to Cloud Shell. It's already up to date. All of the tools that you need are already updated. Azure PowerShell, AZCLI, AZD, all of the tools that we put in there, we update once to twice a month so that when you open up Cloud Shell, you are ready to go. And folks, just so that you know, we're making this easier. Right now, you have to have a storage account, but you're going to see rolling out over the next couple of months, we now are releasing ephemeral sessions so that you don't need a storage account to use Cloud Shell. You can just open up Cloud Shell, go right to work right away. You don't have to make the storage account. We're also improving the UX for this so that you get a better graphical UX to do setups in that thing. But one of the most important things is we're improving our VNet scenarios. If you're interested in using Cloud Shell in your own private VNet through Azure, we're improving that scenario to make your life easier as well. And we've got a lot more on the future roadmap. So we're really interested in talking to everybody, but we want to make Azure Cloud Shell a safe, reliable, secure tool that you can rely on, that you can go to, that's going to be up to date and it's going to do the work for you. So, I mean, kind of cool.
Very cool.
So cool. This is so much fun. I love these tips. I heard a few other awesome things, updates around Azure PowerShell and Azure CLI recently. I heard CLI recently reduced their size by 26%, which is pretty huge, and that CLI completers are coming very soon. I also heard that Azure PowerShell has made some awesome changes recently to make it easier to find out how to install a command if you don't already have it installed in AZ. So a lot of awesome updates coming to the Azure PowerShell and Azure CLI space as well that really tie in to make that Azure Cloud Shell experience so awesome as well.
Well, I mean, we love sharing this stuff.
In the video.
Yep. No, we just...
Well, you know what, guys? This has been a lot of fun. What I would love is to hear everyone else's tips in the comments and on Twitter.
Yes.
I'm so sorry we didn't get to see you guys at Build this year, but hopefully we can hear your tips once again on Twitter or in the comments. We'd love to keep in touch with you both on GitHub, as Steven mentioned earlier. We also have a monthly community call where we love to connect with you. Pretty much our whole engineering team comes. If you'd love to join, it's the third Thursday of every month. We do it at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. And if you want to join, it's aka.ms/join/PSCall. But until next time, we'll throw our little PowerShell signs up. But it was great talking to you.
Oh, Sydney, thanks for doing this. This is awesome. Yay!
Cool. Yay.